Hey everybody, it's Pajama Life, and we review Squid Games 2, What If, and Yacht Rock, a documentary. Let's go now.
These past 4 years, I've made it my mission to track you down.
Player 456, what do you want from me?
I want you to send me in there again. This time, I'm ending it, no matter the cost.
Did you think it was over?
The stakes are higher. The rules deadlier.
Every choice matters, and every mistake is final.
What I want is to stop the game once and for all.
You still don't see, do you? If the world doesn't change, the game doesn't end.
One more game! The ones who built this whole place. We should be going after them instead.
Player 456, welcome back.
And welcome back to Pajama Life 2025 edition. Woo! Well, it's a dynamic duo today, and with me is this guy. Patrick, say hey to the people.
Hey, everybody, got some great stuff to talk about, and I am not going to be negative today, so there we are.
It's a New Year's
A little
Eve
bit, maybe a little bit,
miracle.
but not terrible. Not terrible. Keep it real. Keep it real.
All right. So Squid Games 2. What'd you think, Patrick?
You know, it's funny. I just finished watching it maybe 10 minutes before the show. I mean, because I had to really binge it all day. Of course, in lovely Lawrence, Kansas, where I'm coming from, it is been icing all day, and we're expecting a foot of snow. So it's been a beautiful day to just sit inside and watch TV. So I did. I liked it. It was an interesting addition to some of the elements of the first set, which was, such a surprising hit, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I did like it. I was not excited to find that it was a cliffhanger. And so there's going to be another season of it. And this season did not end. It just stopped. And I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of that. I like my stories a little bit more boxed, just for an example, Star Trek, when they do the big long season-long arcs, not a big fan. I like the episodic stuff, and the same thing. And I'm okay with a season of something, but when you want to try to make it multiple seasons, please just rein yourself in just a little bit. I understand you want to milk this cow till it's dead, but at the same time, and everything in it was. And the thing is, everything in this was good. I enjoyed the performances. They had some different dynamics this time, obviously, with as someone who used to watch Survivor all the time, it felt a lot. You saw them taking some direct quotations from the actual reality TV shows, where you have similar things, where you have people starting to know how things work, and then then it becomes a little bit more predictable. But they're always trying to throw twists into it, so it was very Survivor-esque with a lot more death. But other than that, I liked it. I'm a little, like I said, disappointed that they decided to leave you on this terrible cliffhanger. All of I am Locutus of the Borg. We're gonna go to the next season. You got to come back and find out what happens, type of thing. Which I was just like, okay, but good. I'd give it a good 7. And the first one was a lot higher because it was so unexpected and neat and new. This one, it seemed to be going back to a lot of the same things, so it wasn't as innovative. So it lost some of that freshness, but good.
I was kind of like wanting more action in it, and it was much more storytelling about his life outside and what was going on, and the front man, and some of the things that were going on were a little more interesting. There are a lot of new characters. Thanos is actually a K-pop star. So you got a little taste of him. And it was interesting. The mother-son pairing, they were pretty interesting. And the the transgender woman was very interesting. I thought that was a nice addition to the story. But what I was missing was more of the talking about the debt crisis in Korea and how personal debt has eclipsed the country in a dangerous way and how that's impacted society. That's the kind of stuff that made me so intrigued by the first one. So I was missing kind of more of that, and kind of the antagonist then was, you can always tell when people have started to devalue people. And I learned this watching Hotel Rwanda. When you start referring to people as vermin or cockroaches or trash, then you've completely dehumanized them. That allows you to do anything to them. So in the future, listen, if politicians start referring to people that way. But I think it's still a relevant story. I just want to say, I thought it was going to be some kind of cliffhanger, because I was thinking the minute it happened, I was like, oh yeah, Empire Strikes Back. That's the kind of progenitor of all trilogies, right? So, that's the granddaddy, and everybody kind of follows that kind of model. So that is a big twist. Maybe not big enough, but I thought it was interesting. So of course I'm a fan of 456, and his acting is just, man, that dude can act. That final scene, oh, my heart broke for him. He just brings out all the feels with his fine self. Woo. So he still wins for me. With the Jedi Wookiee fight, he will always be my favorite Korean actor after that. So I am looking forward. I'm not sure when it's coming out in 2025, but it will conclude the series this year. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Pat's looking forward to it, and we'll check in with our buddy David to see if he's looking forward to it. Yep. Squid Games 2. Binge it. It's going to be snowy or cloudy or cold. Just sit down and watch it and get your mask on, because some of it is super gory, not for kids. Maybe not as gory as the first season. All right, next up. And I didn't realize this, but it's the final installment of What If. Let's take a peek.
Let's begin.
Up for an adventure?
Always.
To understand, you must learn to see.
It's showtime.
Here we go!
Howard, are you sure you can fly this?
Are you kidding? I'm a duck. I was born to fly. Strap in.
Oh, move over.
If we all go down, the world will be left defenseless.
This is the shot we have. We may not get another one.
Oh, we're good to go. Up now!
This is where your story ends.
Oh man, I was trying to look up the episodes to see and ask you, which was your favorite of this season?
I can tell you which one I did not like. Much easier. I was not a fan of...
let's not be a hater. Let's talk about what we like. You didn't like any of them?
No. There were several of them that I thought or a couple of them. There wasn't a ton to begin with. I mean, it was a pretty short series run.
Only
Huh?
8.
Yeah, I was
Only
gonna
8
say it was
fine.
there wasn't a ton of them to go through. The Red Guardian one was actually funny. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
I it was okay. I'm gonna say that. I didn't like the way it wrapped up by a lot. I got issues. I
Yeah.
got issues.
Yeah.
But like I said, overall, I'll watch a Marvel insurance seminar. I mean, I'm a big fan, so I will of course go through it. And had some issues with the treatment of Owatu there at the Watchers. And I understand canonically that the Owatu has gotten in several actual intervention issues, but they were always based on the entirety of the universe rather than I feel sorry for this one person. I will feel, but it's like the galaxy is going to end, so I'm going to tweak this little bit here to make the galaxy not end. Whereas this portrayal that they decided to go was with the Watu, who just like, oh, I like that character. I'm gonna help them win against this guy here or whatever, So it's just it tended to minimize. It felt like again with the Star Trek reference, the Prime Directive, you don't interfere, and it's tended to make it seem to cheapen his view of it. Whereas I'm willing to interfere on all these little tiny things rather than, oh yes, Galacticus is going to eat the entire universe. We should probably stop that, rather than, oh, I hate to see, Tony Stark die here. I'm gonna, it's just a little. I know it's just one dude. I'm gonna tweak that a little bit so he has a better ending. It felt like it cheapened the entire thing to a certain extent for me. The Howard the Duck one was sad. I wanted to like that a lot better. It was an interesting way to bring out a lesser known character, and the him and Darcy thing was just weird, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And then having the special power baby, and I was just like, yeah. This is.
Which they didn't explain her powers at all. She was just she flies and then she lights up, and now she's
she was I was like huh? It was poorly done. I felt like, and I understand that they're trying to, they're trying to bring in some new characters. And I mean, this is what Marvel does, and the whole multiverse thing is their biggest get out of jail free ticket they've ever had. Where they can just go ahead and just reboot any particular property bazillion times. I mean, they started it with the Spider-Man, where they brought the three Spider-Men into it when they brought when they got Spider-Man as part of their property. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring back in all the reboots and stuff. I mean, it's the wild, wild west, I guess. So, there's
literally in one of the episodes.
yes. And that one was not a bad episode.
Mashup. That one, it was it was like kind of a throwaway kind of thing until they
just put extent, they all are to a point.
And I was like
yeah, like I said, this season, I think, and I understand this is the last one they were going to be doing of it. So, I get it. And it ended weird, like I said, with, all these characters being elevated to Watcher status, and I mean, the Watcher in actual canonical thing is like one of the seven pillars type of thing of the universe. You got the Watchers, you got eternity, you got time, there's all these different aspects of reality, and he's one of them, just as an observer of the reality. So it kind of cheapened it felt like to me, when I'm just going to bestow the power on everybody. I'm like, oh, really? That's just how, I don't think that's how it should work. But overall, there was in the first couple of seasons, I was much more impressed with the first couple of seasons. They felt like they had more of the spirit of the books, where you were actually dealing with, hey, who would have thought that, the Black Panther could have been taken instead of Peter Quill, and now you got, that going on. And I mean, those are interesting choices, and some of the, I mean, because it put different characters in different things, and this just like, it was like, oh, we gotta wrap this up. We gotta got to find a way to kind of get everybody out, then we can maybe come back to it later if we want to. So it just fell a little flat for me. I really wanted to like it a lot more this season. I was like excited when I saw it coming out. I'm like, oh wow, there's new episodes of this, because I love the first two seasons.
Every day new episodes, so I was like, ooh, that's cool. But yeah, it just kind of wasn't exciting, and it seemed to me like so many things we're gonna get probably next year or so was a victim of COVID, and that the darkness of COVID kind of permeated everything, including intellectual properties. And so it felt kind of like this had that heaviness and that kind of drag that it had. And so it didn't have the joy I felt the other two seasons had. And this one was way darker. And I was kind of like, why? This is what is going on. But there is one shining. You should have seen it by now. When Storm comes into the picture, I was like, yay! And doubly because your girl got to actually meet Allison Seeley Smith, the voice of Storm, at her first Comic-Con. So I will do a thing on that, but so it was really cool to have that moment of, oh man, I met her. Oh my God, that's her voice. Oh, this is so awesome. But I was kind of like, what that story? I was kind of like, what they do now? So it's good. It's not great, I think, this season. And I think they did it, like you said, Patrick, a disservice of how they wrapped up a previously glorious season. So
it feels like they do that with a lot of series, not Marvel, but just television in general, where they decide, like examples like How I Met Your Mother, super good to the last two seasons when they know they're ending and they're trying to wrap it up, and so they're forcing things that don't feel right or fit right. And a lot of series do this when they know that. Scrubs last season, absolutely fabulous show to the last season, when it just it was the worst. So I mean, there's a lot of those series where you can watch everything, love it all the way up to the last season, and you're like, yeah, I can tell the plug was getting pulled.
All of those are beginning with S shows, so maybe it's something about the title that they do a crap job at the end of it.
Possibly.
Game of Thrones. Ugh. So yeah, it just, and I think part of it too, the environment too of entertainment was greatly affected by the strike and stuff, so that might have had an impact on it too. So we'll see. Hopefully Marvel will come up with something new and different. I think the Amazing Spider-Man, another animated series, starts this month on Disney Plus. So maybe we'll take a look at that next month. All right, wrapping up with, I didn't know this was something that I wanted, and I was so glad I watched it. Yacht Rock, a documentary. Let's take a look.
LA in the 1970s.
It was an amazing time. There's these really talented session guys who can play anything.
Steely Dan.
The Doobie Brothers. Toto.
Kenny Loggins.
Christopher Cross. Michael fucking McDonald.
You don't know me, but I'm your brother.
Have these sensational white musicians who had been acculturated on black music styles.
You write what you hear, what you feel.
A lot of the black stations picked up my first album. They made it a hit. It caused a buzz that we weren't used to getting.
The term yacht rock emerged from a comedy show.
All of a sudden, this new genre we made up started to get embraced by the world.
I expected to be totally forgotten by the end of the 80s.
I began to see that it was a kind of ass-backwards way to honor us.
Obviously, it made an impression on somebody.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This was so amazing. And this is our time frame. I grew up on this stuff, loved it, know it, played it in high school band, of course. Some of these songs. But I just thought that the documentary itself was excellent because it started off as one thing, but then took this great turn to talk about the musicians and the music and what they did to come up with it, and who the music was kind of reverencing was a lot of R&B and jazz at the time. And so, like they said, for a lot of us, I didn't know some of these people were black, and were not black until, Ambrosia, I didn't know they were not black. But the music, I thought one of the most important things besides them referencing the black artists was that this was music that men could use to emote and to express their feelings about breakups and loss and love and joy and heartache. And you hadn't seen a lot of that in kind of rock, white pop music until these songs started. You heard that in a lot of black music, but you didn't hear that in a lot of white music. So I thought that was great. And the most funny revelation to me was Christopher Cross was a outlaw. And I was like, with that voice, he started by selling weed, and then he wrote sailing because he was high on acid or something. I was like, this guy is hilarious. But what a beautiful tribute to the music. But sometimes you can't always recognize, ego gets in the way, and you can't really recognize the tributes years later because you're still stuck on, well, this was rock, and it's not this yacht rock. And I'm like, but they're playing your music. The new generation loves you. It's coming, you making money. So that's the part I was kind of like, step aside and let people rediscover you and keep your legacy going. What'd you think, Pat?
Pam, a lot of times when you suggest stuff to me, I make a bit of a side eye look and go, okay, I guess I'll watch whatever this is. But you know what? Kudos to you. This was absolutely, enjoy the moment. I'm sure you'll sit and watch some other dog shit later. But I want to tell you that this was fabulous. I loved it. And I forgot how much you knew these songs. And as Pam mentioned earlier, this is our generation. We played Minute by What a Fool Believes in marching band. I remember playing that. And this was stuff that we grew up in. I knew the words still, and I haven't heard some of this music in 40 years. And I'm just like, holy crap. But when you were talking about how some of these guys just kind of forgot how much they loved it and didn't take it seriously, the part that me and my wife laughed our butts off with was Dan Fagan from Steely Dan. And I love Steely Dan. I got two or three of their albums. I mean, I own a lot of that stuff. It was funny how I was looking through my catalog to see how much of this stuff actually I have in my actual vinyl catalog. And I'm like, holy crap, I got a lot of it. I didn't have any Dan Fogelberg, but that'll be rectified tomorrow when I get a delivery if the snow lets it come in. But I was actually ordering stuff online because I realized, how do I not have this in my collection? But this stuff was amazing. When they were trying to get Donald Fagan to comment on it, they're like, hey, we're going to do a documentary, we'd like to get you in. It's about some of the music. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, what's it called? And he goes, well, we're going to call it, I think, Yacht Rock. And he goes, oh, you're going to call it Yacht Rock? How about you go fuck yourself? And he hangs the phone up on it. And I'm like, and me and my wife just busted out laughing.
I think he just hung up and cussed me out.
That's what it was. And it was perfect because, Donald Fagan's always been a little bit full of himself. And it's been known throughout, all these musical years, even then it was like, yeah, he just takes himself. He feels like he's a real auteur, you know, with the French accent there on it, even. But God, this music. I mean, I'm going to tell you, and for those of you, and I'm not throwing out, you know, like recommendations, or I'm not getting paid or anything of this stuff. I'm not getting paid by anybody except for my work. I will tell you the Questlove, the two Spotify playlists he has on there for Yacht Rock. He's got one that's Questlove's Yacht Rock, and the other one's Dear Anthony Bourdain in defense of Yacht Rock and Dentist Office Music. Both of those are fire. You should be listening to those, and you will be singing along, especially if you're if you graduated anywhere from 81 to 87. I suspect you'll be right in there, and you'll be like, God, I remember this, you know. God, this is good stuff. And I mean, Toto was great. Chicago was on these playlists.
Oh my God.
You know, Dan Fogelberg, Criss Cross, Kenny Loggins, all the stuff, you know, hit all the bases. And I'm telling you what, it was delightful.
Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald.
Michael McDonald was on everything. And, you know, the thing is, I listened to these other artists, and I didn't realize this, you know, everybody knew that he was in like one or two songs because he was, you know, his voice is very distinctive. I didn't realize he was on all these Kenny Loggins records. I mean, he was there everywhere. And the same thing with the Toto band. I knew Toto was a session band. I guess I didn't realize what that meant, but it meant that they played most of the music you hear on this thing, you know, as far as the band. You know, they could just walk in and play this stuff, you know.
Yeah. And what was
like,
cool to me was that they were all connected. You know, it was the three Porcaro brothers, and then they spread out with Paige, and they all started pulling in, but all of them were super talented. That's the thing that really amazed me. There wasn't like, oh, he can't really play, but you know, he's cute, so let's let him. No, it was like, you get in here, and only you can break in if you can really play.
And the thing is too, they touch on that too, is the whole thing about this was just right at the cusp of MTV when artists had to start looking good. Because you think, I mean, really, you look at some of these, if you look at the liner notes, any of these artists, none of them are, you know, supermodels. You don't get the Madonnas, you don't get the Britney Spears. You got people that could play. I mean, you got people like all these, you know, most of these guys are pretty average. And you know, and then you got people, and you can think about other outside the yacht rock genre at that particular point. Boston, you look at Kevin Neal, I can't remember what his name is, from REO Speedwagon. Boy, he was not great looking, but you know what? They sang great music, and they made good music.
And listen to how they talked about music. They talked about the sonic portion of the music. They talked about chord progression. These people knew music and how to sing and arrange and compose. It wasn't just a look. That's why these songs last still to this day, is you can listen to them, and it's something about the melodies and the chords. And listen to the words on these songs. People make fun, but they are some beautiful pieces of poetry, some of them. And just like, it's just, when I was looking at it with closed captioning, and I was like, dang, this is beautiful. I mean, it sounds like an earworm, which it can't, but it's beautiful prose and beautiful construction of the music itself. Nowadays, everybody uses one chord progression,
auto-tune,
and it's in all the songs now. That's why, what's his name? Ed Sheeran, his music, he's getting sued all over the place. That's why what's his name? Robin Thicke got sued. That's why, because they're stealing from each other.
Now hold on. I will tell you that's been going on. That's been going on since the 12th, the 13th, 15th century. I mean, artists have always
but now they're
liberated.
Just outright stealing without giving credit.
Mozart did that stuff all the time too.
Chord progression and just say it's yours.
You
and not
can't get to a
the
point. You got to change it enough. And I'm not in defense of sampling and doing everything else. I'm just saying this is something that's been done forever. So to act outraged about it is a little disingenuous, because
I
I
am.
know they've been doing it, but but they've just become really not slick about it. You make it so
exactly
obvious you stole it, and
because
but the reason they do
they
that
can
is
bully
because
them.
well, the
They
reason they
can
do
bully
that too is because they know that
corporations get involved, and
this
you
one
can
artist
bully them.
has put this. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm
No,
talking
no,
over you.
go
I
ahead.
apologize.
Go
I'm just gonna
ahead.
say the reason they do that is because they know they have a built-in audience. People have already been trained to understand the Michael McDonald, the Doobie Brothers, and they even talk about the Doobie Brothers bounce because with
Yeah,
that piano bounce that they do, and
yeah.
everybody kind of stole that to a point, but they made it their own, which was enough to make it not straight up sampling. But everybody's always done
They
this, and
just
I'm
take it.
and now that with recording and the way they can dub things in, there's no skill involved in it anymore. You don't have
Right,
to really make it your own. I mean,
right.
everybody, like I said, everybody's been stealing stuff since time immemorial. But
But now too, if you look at the sound of it, the singing, the singing was very different. I mean, you look at the singer sang differently. I feel like now you get a lot of the same voice, the same sound from Sabrina Carpenter and this one and that one and that one, and they all sound very similar, and all the guys are tenors now. No, used to like Michael McDonald is so beloved, I think in part because he's a baritone bass and he has a deeper voice. You don't get baritone basses in regular music now. And so it's kind of like you leaving out a lot of potential great singers. So I think that this was just fantastic. Go back and listen to the music and enjoy and support the artists if they come into town. And then did you see some of the concerts that were combined? Can you imagine going to see Kenny Loggins and
yeah,
Fleetwood Mac in one concert? Or Michael
I mean, I
McDonald,
wish I would have. I wish I
Rosa,
could have.
and this one, oh my God. And Toto, oh my God. That's like amazing. I mean, I got to see Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago, and I thought I was in seven. They were in the same concert, the Tower of Power, doing the background. Oh my God. That was one of the best concerts I'd ever been to. So, yeah, definitely check out Yacht Rock, a documentary. I don't think you will I
No,
think
you'll
you'll
love it.
enjoy it. You'll
You'll
love it.
love it.
You can't turn it away. Next week, we're back and we will review Gladiator 2. This year we're gonna go to the movies and see movies and then do first run in the theater movies, as well as a conclave about a Pope secession on Peacock and Night Bitch.
It's a
About a
rom-com.
mom who walks away from her job to raise kids, and boy, it changes her. So let's take a look at that, Pat. And as well, before we leave, we definitely wanted to have a tribute and prayer for the nation at the loss of one of the greatest presidents in the modern era, Jimmy Carter. I had a chance to meet President Carter. He was a wonderful and amazing and sweet, just as you would expect him to be. And so it really is great loss of a really important and post presidency, one of the most important presidents our nation has had. So Pat, any words about Jimmy Carter?
I remember Jimmy Carter being one of the, I think might have been the first president I could have voted for at that particular point. I think, or might have been, I might have had to vote after him. I might have been Carter versus,
Mondale?
I guess it would have been Reagan. Would have been Reagan.
Yeah.
Reagan's the guy that beat him for his second term. Jimmy Carter was a great example of how to walk the walk.
Right.
The guy went to church, taught Sunday school, built houses for the needy. He did more. His Carter Foundation did more to eradicate preventable diseases in Africa than a lot of the World Health Agency might be close. They'll be close. It'll be a 1 and 2 type of thing. He did things that made the world demonstrably better.
Yeah.
And I gotta wonder if Jimmy is up there in heaven and he's going, I made sure I died so that my flags will all be at half-mast in Washington on January 26th. Boy, that's a sad moment, but man, that's the way you leave like a boss. So good on him. The world's a lesser place without him, is what I would say.
I think it's a little bit colder without Jimmy Carter in it. So definitely you get a chance. If you have a chance to see the progression, do so. And if you're here in the DC area, and you can go to the Rotunda, do that. And if you could get into the National Cathedral, boy, get in. So, but definitely watch it. And we mourn but celebrate the life of Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter. All right. So that takes us to the end of this week. We will see you next time. Take care.